I think looking back, I think Black Widow is going to be remembered fondly. When you think about movie history, Black Widow, it's an important one, but not because of the movie being any good. Black Widow, directed by Cate Shortland, follows Natasha Romanoff as she confronts the darker parts of her ledger when a dangerous conspiracy with ties to her past arises. The movie stars Scarlett Johansson, Florence Pugh, David Harbour, Rachel Weisz, and Ray Winstone. The character of Black Widow is really one of those characters that, a founding member of the Avengers, an important character. Some would say, yeah, I mean, just way up there with Iron Man and Captain America or whatever. I mean, I've never, honestly, I've never been that enamored with Black Widow as a character, but this was a movie that I thought could be really, really good. I was actually excited to see this movie, but it starts out where the character of Black Widow is basically dragged along the story, right? Just taken from point A to point B through the story, the plot, and everything, all the way up until about halfway through, where she really starts to have an effect on what's happening in the story. And this is unfortunate because, I really thought that this movie was going to be a lot about Black Widow's backstory, right? I mean, not an origin story, but more of a, how maybe some of the events in the past have shaped her, and then kind of, you're telling a story like in present day alongside. That's what I thought it was going to be, and it really wasn't that at all. I mean, her backstory, her past, is just kind of touched upon, and that's kind of a big deal. The main part of the story takes place after Captain America Civil War and before Avengers Infinity War. The real standouts in the movie are Florence Pugh as Yelena and David Harbour as Alexei. They're really, really great in the movie. Florence Pugh, in fact, her character is sort of the catalyst that gets the whole story moving, and she brings the feels in a lot of scenes, and I think that her work here was actually really, really welcome. And David Harbour is just, he's David Harbour. I mean, how many times have you seen David Harbour and you go, man, that guy is he's really just good in everything he's ever been in. The only problem that I see there is that some of the dialogue tends to take away from sort of the dramatic moments, And I think a lot of Marvel movies has this thing. I've actually seen this commented many times, is that with any kind of dramatic moment, there's sort of this tendency to want to put a joke right after it. It's like, oh, we don't want to get people really sad, so let's lighten the mood with a joke. But I mean, some of this stuff is pretty heavy. I mean, there's some really, really heavy stuff in this movie, and then it's played for a joke in some cases, and it's kind of like, why? It's the one thing that I hope that Disney and Marvel they try to get away from a little bit. I mean, it's okay to have a deep moment or a dark moment or a touching moment without immediately dismantling that everything that you've built, in that scene with a joke. You don't have to do that. You can let it sit and let it affect you. I mean, that's what good stories do, right? This might be one of those things where it's like, Rob, what do you say about expectations? Judge it on what the movie is and not what it could have been. But I think my biggest issue with the movie is that I was left with this feeling that sort of everything that had transpired was really kind of inconsequential to the Marvel story as a whole. And for a character like Black Widow, that's kind of a bummer. There's some really, really interesting, and let's call it what it is, horrifying ideas here that never really materialize into anything that resembles anything meaningful. So for a movie that's supposed to be sort of a swan song for one of the founding members of the Avengers, that's disappointing. I don't know what's going on, behind the scenes with Marvel and Disney and Scarlett Johansson and all this stuff, but I really feel like Black Widow, the character, and I feel like Scarlett Johansson, the actress, they deserved a better story than this. This felt very paint by numbers, standard kind of story, action beat here, action beat there. It felt with like after the movie was over, I felt nothing. That sucks. So what I talked about at the beginning of the review is, yeah, the movie was pretty successful considering the pandemic, of course, and Disney Plus subs went up because of it. I mean, there was a boost in Disney Plus subs. So, during that whole premiere access thing where you pay $29.99 on top of your Disney Plus subscription to watch it, there were people that did that. There were people that stayed home and paid that money and watched Black Widow. So it was actually a good thing, and it was pretty successful. But that's not really why the movie should be remembered fondly. Okay, the reason that I think this movie is important for, I guess, movie history is the battle between Scarlett Johansson and Disney regarding revenue from the digital sales and the digital stuff like Disney Plus versus box office, and regarding her contract. So all of that stuff was really, really interesting and really important. And I think it's going to be even more important going forward. I mean, we're going to see some interesting things going on with different kinds of budgets of movies and things like that. But it also seems to have been kind of the reason why so many changes in the industry are coming. The IATSE, which is basically a union for the, I guess you'd call them like the tradesmen of the movie industry, your cinematographers, your grips, your production assistants, all those kinds of people, the people that really make movies happen, especially during production. There was a strike that was looming that was pretty scary. It was going to shut down all production in Hollywood, whether it's a streaming show, a TV show, a movie. It was all going to be shut down, and they came to an agreement. This whole thing forced the studios to agree to better conditions for mainly streaming projects, but really across the board for all production. So we're talking about the weird turnaround thing. And I know for a lot of people this may not matter, but if you leave set at midnight and have to be back at set at 10 a.m. in the morning, that's a very, very short window where you can, wind down for the day, get some sleep, get something to eat, all those kinds of things. It's very, very rough on some of these productions. So this is a big deal. It's really, really good for movie production, streaming production, all of these, the production that goes on in Hollywood, but especially on those streaming projects, because now we've got wage increases coming. Because let's be honest, every company in the world wants to save money, right? They want to boost their profits. And for the longest time, they've been able to basically dictate what people make on a streaming project versus a movie, say, right? Oh, well, this budget is going to be a lot less. So yeah, we can pay these people less than what they would make on a regular movie, even though they're working just as hard, if not harder. So this is a good thing. This whole thing that went on because of the IATSE, this is going to make these people who I care for deeply, the people that make the entertainment that I love, it's going to make them happier and healthier. And I think that's a really good thing. So if I was going to give Black Widow a rating, which I guess I have to, right? I mean, this is a review after all. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 4. I'm going to recommend it if you're a Marvel fan. If you're not a Marvel fan, I don't see why you'd be watching this movie. But I also I almost want to give it a lower score just because I came away with it by saying, eh. So, Black Widow, it's not the best movie, right? Not the worst movie. It's just kind of right there in the middle, and I feel like Black Widow deserved better than that. But I'm curious. What do you think about this? Were you able to see this during, when it first came out, maybe on Premiere Access? Did you go to the theater, or did you just wait to watch it like me? Leave those comments down below and we will discuss it, because that's fun. So thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.